Well, good morning and welcome back to another episode of Forest Adventures with Scott. I want to thank you for joining me this morning and welcome back my subscribers and viewers as well. Viewers, if you have enjoyed the content so far, I welcome you to subscribe and give us a like. Appreciate it a lot. So I'm down here at my local trails. Just got a short hike in this morning, but I thought I didn't want to do just another hike video. I wanted to do something, I wanted to share something with you that I've always enjoyed. I've always enjoyed reading. So I thought I would share some of my favorite travel adventure type books. First, I want to thank a subscriber for sending me some soothed tea this morning with turmeric. I really appreciate that, my friend. And you know, it means a lot that you took something from a previous video and something that I had mentioned and had enough wherewithal to send a gift, and I'm very appreciative of that. So without further ado, I'm just going to talk about a few of my favorite books in my collection. At the end of the video, I'm going to give you some, some honorable mentions. Things that I've read, that I've checked out from the library, or books that I have that I've loaned out to people, and hopefully they've gotten something from it too. So without further ado, let's get into the books. So I'm going to start with Into Thin Air with Jon Krakauer. A lot of you may be familiar with his book that was adapted into a movie called Into the Wild, starring Emile Hirsch and directed by Sean Penn. Great book, great movie, but this book is about a team of mountaineers climbing Mount Everest and a disaster that unfolded within that expedition. Jon Krakauer, the writer, is a mountaineer and a famous climber and writer for magazines like Outside Magazine and stuff like that. And I really love his work. I've read a lot of his books. But this book is about that expedition in 1996 in late April, when his expedition lost 5 members. A storm came up on Mount Everest, and unfortunately some people perished. It's a sad book, obviously. The outcome was not good, but it made for good literature. But anyway, a great read, a great writer. If you ever get a chance and you like adventure, outdoor, and travel type books, I highly recommend Jon Krakauer's Into Thin Air. All right, next in the collection of some of my favorite adventure travel books is Barbarian Days, A Surfing Life by William Finnegan. William Finnegan's book about a surfing life is a little different than any surfing movie or surfing style book that I've ever watched or read. It's the true essence of the lifestyle. And I think that was his point in this book. He wanted to differentiate a sport or a hobby and make it more about the art form and the lifestyle. So the book starts out as him being a kid and learning to surf in Hawaii and California. And as he gets older, into his late teens, he progresses and he gets more interested in travel. He becomes a journalist, and I think he uses those journalist travel needs for other stories to get surfing in exotic places around the world. Some of the characters in the book are very colorful, and but it's crazy. I love what it says right here. Sports Illustrated says, reading this guy on the subject of waves and water is like reading Hemingway on bullfighting. And that's pretty accurate. I'm not comparing Finnegan to Hemingway, but the book itself is a fun journey into a lifestyle of adventure and exploration. So check it out sometime. William Finnegan, Barbarian Days. All right. Next on deck, in my little stack here is Edward Abbey, The Fool's Progress. So Edward Abbey is one of my favorite naturalist, conservationist writers. This book isn't his most popular work. It would probably be Desert Solitaire or maybe even the Monkey Wrench Gang, but this book is a semi-autobiographical book about later in life. He's gone through several divorces. Matter of fact, this story starts out his third wife leaving him for good. He's been living out in the southwest part of the United States for the majority of his adult life, and this book is about a journey back east to his home, whether it be to visit relatives or whatever. So there's interesting and exciting things that happen along the way traveling back east. It's a very retrospective book. He's spending a lot of time thinking about his successes and his failures in life, and very allegorical, and just a good novel. I enjoy his work a lot. I also enjoy John Steinbeck's work, and this book, Travels with Charley, focuses on yet another successful American novelist who has come to a point in his life. I think this book was written in his 60s, where he wants to reconnect with the country, and so he decides to, with his dog Charley, pack up a camper truck, and cross the country, do a loop around the country. An interesting thing I remember reading in this book is he says the development of the interstate system has made it where you can drive across the country and back and not see a damn thing. And there's so much truth to that. If you're traveling the country, you have to get off that interstate and see things. So anyway, John Steinbeck, one of my favorite American novelists, and Travels with Charley is a fun, easy read. Also, I'd like to mention about John Steinbeck is I was fortunate enough in the late 90s on a cross-country trip with a good friend of mine to visit his museum and his birthplace in Salinas, California. So I guess there's a little bit of connection there too. I've always loved his short novellas, Tortilla Flat and Cannery Row. So if you ever get a chance, pick up some John Steinbeck. Okay, moving on. So we're going to talk for a few minutes about one of my all-time favorite American novelists, Jack Kerouac. And I know what you Jack Kerouac aficionados are thinking. Why would he do a travel adventure video without mentioning On the Road? Well, I will mention On the Road because this book did change my life, and it influenced me in so many ways, and it shaped me to who I am today with regards to wanting to explore and the country and visit different cities and landscapes. But I picked Desolation Angels because I love the first part of the book. The book is about Jack before he becomes famous with On the Road, and the first part of the book is about a summer spent in a fire tower in the North Cascades of Washington. And he's at a point in his life where two things are tugging at him. The joy he gets from being in solitude and the friends he's made over the years and being in that Beat Generation environment, in the jazz clubs, on the road, stuff like that. So it's a very introspective look into his life and things he was going through at that time. So I love the book, Desolation Angels, Jack Kerouac. And last but not least is definitely one of my favorite, not necessarily writers, but just persons in general, and that's John Muir. So John Muir was a naturalist, conservationist. Some of his contemporaries, Henry David Thoreau and Ralph Waldo Emerson, he's considered in that group a transcendentalist, even though he would probably argue that he was not of the same ideology. But anyway, I love John Muir's work. But John Muir ended up spending the majority of his adult life in the Sierra Nevadas. And we can thank him for his conservation efforts with regards to Yosemite National Park and Yosemite Valley. This book is Travels in Alaska, and he went up that way 3 or 4 times and discovered the beauty that is Alaska. And in the late 1860s, not many white men had explored that area. So it's a very interesting book. The naturalist in him gives descriptions of geology and botany and biology, and it's very interesting to me. So if you ever get a chance to read John Muir, I would maybe recommend Mountains of California first. And then, of course, there's 4 or 5 other different books that if you find the first one interesting. So this is Travels in Alaska, and it's great. So I'm gonna actually sign off for now. I think we got quite a few books. If anybody's interested in checking these books out, I highly recommend them. And I'm gonna sign off, but before that, let's give you some honorable mentions. Between Each Step by Patrice Levine. No Barriers by Eric Weihenheimer.